Welcome to a new episode of Truth Be Told. I am your host, Michelle Lorraine, and this podcast is a podcast by women for women, recognizing how powerful and amazing we are. Today, we are excited that we are going to be speaking about respect, the parent and child adult relationship. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you to please remember to like Michelle Lorraine on Facebook, Instagram, and follow us on YouTube. Again, that's Michelle Lorraine, and subscribe there for me. Thank you. And I am again so excited about our topic, and our special guest today is Alexis Lee. Now, Alexis is an amazing woman, and I'm really excited about having her here. She is a recovering traumatic brain injury survivor. She has 13 years experience in working with the criminal justice, and she is a frontline worker with women who have fled from abusive relationship. I'm telling you, this lady, she has an amazing package of strength, knowledge, and drive for life. So I want you to help me welcome my special guest, Alexis Lee.
Hello.
Hi, Alexis. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm enjoying the sunshine, ready to break out of this drama called pandemic.
Yeah, me too. Trust me, I'm so over this COVID and lockdown, and it's just driving me crazy, but I'm still good. You look amazing. Love your outfit.
Thank you. I thought I'd pay homage to spring, blossom.
Yeah. And I purposely didn't mention it when I was just talking about you before you came on, that you are also a personal stylist.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So, I need the hookup, right?
Hey, I'm here. I am here.
Excellent. So I know I mentioned to everyone what you've been through. If you want to just kind of give a little back story of where you're coming from and your goals, just to share with our audience.
Sure, no problem. So again, Alexis Lee, you can call me Lexi. As Michelle graciously, I guess, kind of provided in terms of information, I am a traumatic brain injury survivor. I'd like to call myself a walking miracle, because a lot of the things that I was told I'd never be able to do again, and etc., here I am being able to do them. This happened in 2017, and thank God I am further along in my recovery journey and just looking forward to more recovery and restoration. I do have, I think it's 13 years of experience in criminal justice. That's where I spent all of my career. So it ranged from being a bail supervisor, so supervising people on bail. I'm well familiar with the court setting. I also did what's called the DAP program, so assigning sanctions to people with criminal charges to have their charges withdrawn, having meetings with Crown attorneys to try and get cases resolved in a lesser, what's the word? I guess you could say a lighter disposition. Okay. Also during that time, so this was in hand. So full time I was working in the courts, and then part time at a women's shelter for survivors of domestic abuse, doing trauma intervention, screening calls, things like that. Busy little bee.
Yeah, that's really good. And what are some of your goals? I know you have some goals that you've set.
Right. So during the experience with the brain injury, I realized there's not a lot of information within our community, being the Afro-Caribbean, or even, I guess you would say, Indo-Caribbean community. There is not a lot of knowledge about traumatic brain injuries and what comes with that. It is a whole package. People don't realize how much you rely on your brain. It is Grand Central Station for everything: our emotions, our physical movements, our thoughts, processes, all of that stuff. And so my goal is to just bring awareness
Mm-hmm.
through my experience to our community to bring compassion and understanding. And also, let's talk about what avenues we can look at to help alleviate. It is a stressful and a lonely experience. So if I can bring resources and awareness, I think that I am living out my purpose.
That's great. That's amazing. And trust me, we're gonna audience, everyone out there, you're gonna see more of Alexis because she has an amazing story, and I just enjoy having conversation with her. It's just amazing. So
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And today we're talking about the parent and the adult child relationship. And I know we were talking about it a little bit earlier this week, which, you know,
I
my
like
mom
that.
might be watching. I have family out there, relatives, and everything. I've got children, and they're adults now too. So
Right.
it's not only about, let's say, me as the adult child, but I'm also the parent. So I'm playing that dual role, right?
Right.
So a couple weeks ago, I talked about the age of what we consider adulthood, and 18 years old is what they say you're an adult.
Right.
The Caribbean, I mentioned, may have a different definition of
As
adult.
long as you're living in the house, you're still a child. And even when you're gone.
And even this is the thing, go ahead, elaborate on that. How do you see that?
First of all, I called my mom, FaceTime her.
Uh-huh.
And FaceTime, I don't know, a certain generation, they think FaceTime is like either your nose down or forehead up. It's never. So I called my mom, affectionately Miss P. I said, Mom, I am going to spill tea on you like it is nobody's business. And I sent her the flyer and I was like, I am going to tell on you. So
right.
Mom is well aware.
Yeah.
Just no boundaries. And I think they do it out of love, but there needs to come like the hand. We need to have a talk. You might not listen, but let's have the chat.
Yeah. And it's not that we don't love them, and it's not that we don't respect them. It's just that once you become an adult, there's some sense of autonomy. You want to build up your autonomy. And once you have it, once you get it, you don't want to give it back away. So whether it's at 18 or 25, 30, 40, whatever, we want to make sure that the parent now understands the transition of being parented or guided to now you making your own decision and making choices for yourself. Now, does that mean we don't want their opinion or we don't want their input? Like, how does that go with you and affectionately known Miss P? Yeah.
I've always been independent. Always. Like, I've always made my own choices, and then maybe we'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
That's always been me. I asked my mom for advice on things that I am not well versed on. For example, the housing market. I'm going to seek my mom's consultation on that. But my mom likes to ask questions where it's like, let's just leave that alone, Miss B. I know for sure she does it out of love, and I know for sure many parents do it out of love, but I think we just need to understand that you have to cut the umbilical cord.
Yeah.
I'm not a mom. I can't pronounce it properly.
That's okay.
You have to cut it and realize people need to make their own choices as an adult, right? And if you keep coddling people, what's going to happen when the reality comes that, you come of an age where now you become the dependent? Who's going to be the adult?
Yeah.
You have to let go and let grow.
Yeah. I like that. Let go and let grow. Yeah, exactly. Even with myself and my daughters, one of the things I found when they were a certain age, like especially let's roll back a little bit further. When they're kids, let's say 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, you have to teach them boundaries, obviously. Right. Then when they get to another age, let's say their early teenage years, you start needing to teach them about responsibility, right? So that when they get to a certain place or where they're going to need to make their own decisions, then they're ready and able to do it. If we become adults to them all the time, then they're never going to learn to be adults, right?
No.
So one of the things that I know that we talk about when we have a different opinion from our parents, they say we're not respecting them. That word respect is a big thing when we're not doing what they say.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think they think respect means submission. And that's not what respect really is. You can have a mutual adult, I guess you could say, relationship, but still have that regard as you're my parent.
Right.
And I want to put it out there that if you keep coddling and, you know, getting involved and making decisions for your adult child, they're not going to be able to function in the real world. There is a world outside of your family, outside of your household, and people need to develop skills to function in society, you know, without the I guess you could say the helicopter parent, so to speak. I think it's great to establish boundaries from childhood ages and to maintain those throughout your lifespan. But what value and what excitement do you get out of life when you don't discover it by yourself?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. True. Like, and again, even with the word respect, I went and I looked up the definition. Feeling a deep admiration for someone or something based by their abilities, qualities, or achievement. So they give an example, like the director had a lot of respect for Douglas as an actor. So he had an ability or a quality or an achievement, and so you admire, you respect them. And then they have due regards for feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions. So we can respect your tradition, right? Doesn't mean that you have to, or you can respect them by admiring them for the role that they play in your life, or their ability as a parent, things like that. So it's not that you don't respect them, you do respect them, but then there's times when you need to make a decision based off of your own traditions, which is what I want to talk about next, is when they have certain traditions that now you don't necessarily want to follow those traditions.
Yeah.
Are you being disrespectful because you're not following their traditions, or are you just following your own path?
I definitely think it's following your own path. And we tend to forget that we're all individuals. Yes, you're part of a group, you're part of a family, but you are your own person. And you have to make choices for yourself. I think that's so important. If like my grandmother, God rest her soul, she passed away 2 weeks ago and was like my best friend. I slept in this woman's bed until I was 14. And if it was up to my grandma, I'd be in this box. God love her. I know she loved me dearly, but she this lady was born in the 20s. This is what she knew. I remember the first time I was telling her that I was going to Puerto Rico, and she was like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you going? So I said, Grandma, I'm going to visit. And she kept thinking it was Mexico for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Then she was like, Missy them people Pamori. And if it was up to her, I wouldn't go and see other countries. Like the first time I dyed my hair red, my grandma called Jesus down off the cross.
Oh my gosh. Yes,
we
yes.
need to make our own choices so that we can look back, and if we're blessed to have our own children, to say, you know what, this is what I did.
Yeah.
And then you can look at your grandma or your great grandma and this is what they did. But just because I want to make choices for myself doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't respect you, right? And obviously, if I still maintain a relationship with you, it means I value you so much, but I am an individual.
Yeah.
And what happens, my question is, what happens when you get married? Right? So if your family, for example, only drinks out of white teacups, and you marry into somebody who only drinks out of blue teacups, do you no longer love your parents because now your spouse drinks out of blue teacups?
Right. And if you feel that you always have to obey your parent, then when you do get into a relationship with a spouse, you're torn between who am I respecting now? My
Right.
spouse or my parent? So
Right.
again, we have to learn and develop. Well, one, we need to be confident in our relationship with our child,
Yeah.
our adult child. We have to be confident that whatever we taught them was enough, or that we've done our best in educating them and empowering them to go out in the world and make their own decisions. That's
Right.
one thing. We have to be confident that we are doing our best as parents. And then when they go out and make their own decisions, then we either stand by them or we give them our opinion, and then it's up to them to make their own decision.
Right.
And then this way you're still keeping a bond with them, but understanding that there are now boundaries because they are an adult, right?
I have a question.
Sure.
Why do you think boundaries are so hard for old school Caribbean parents?
Oh, wow. I think because they're very strong minded. I don't know if that would be enough to define it, but they're very rigid. I find that they don't, in most cases, I'm not saying all Caribbeans, but I think in most cases they're very firm in the path that they're walking. It's either yes or no. They don't like to have gray areas.
Right.
So when it comes to their firmness, it's just been ingrained in them. I think it's tradition. They definitely are, don't spoil the child, don't spare the rod and spoil the child, that kind of mentality. So the flexibility is not always there because of the way that they have been brought up. That's my thought.
Okay.
What about you? What do you think?
I just don't think they've ever come across the word called boundaries. My mom,
they didn't have boundaries. Like their parents didn't have boundaries. So it just passed on.
My brother would have mail coming to her house. She'd call me and be like, "There's a letter here for your brother. What do you think it is?" I don't know. That's my address to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even like I know my mom loves me very dearly, and I know she loves all my sisters. It's the same thing. It's Michelle, she doesn't do it as much now. So mom, if you're watching, I'm recognizing that it's not like how it used to be. Hey, mom. Right. But I remember as an adult child, it'd be like, where are you going? What are you doing? The questioning. And sometimes it's like, well, I don't really want to tell you what I'm doing. Do I have to? That type of feeling. We do have a comment from Facebook.
Okay.
And this will be read by Cheyenne.
Okay. All right. So Mark was saying that it's called a balancing both relationships, respecting each other for their beliefs and traditional practices. Jalen said because disobeying their boundaries equals disrespect automatically, like for Caribbean parents. There's no room for others' preferences.
Right. So I agree with both statements. Even for myself, right? I did find in some cases I don't want to let go. And I think it's not letting go. I can say Jalen's. Can I say your age, Jalen?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I'm trying to be respectful. I'm understanding my boundaries. So Jalen is 19.
Okay.
Right? Yes. So she's 19. And sometimes I feel like, she says, Mom, I'm going out. And I am like, where you go? Okay. I like to know because I'm thinking, what if something happens to her?
But I tell you.
I know, but I still think in my mind, what if something happens to her? I don't know where she was. Where was the last place you were so I can know where to search for you? Maybe it's a fear thing. Maybe that's why.
I think if you have that relationship where you feel open to talking to your parent, you don't have to worry about where are you going, what are you doing, who are you going with, who's there, because it's going to come to you. But if you have this overbearing helicopter kind of relationship, then that's when the person feels like I want to hold on to something for myself, because clearly I have nothing for myself here. I don't have my own freedom.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's the other thing about, let's say they have a different way of expressing themselves, okay?
Right.
So sometimes, like, for me, I did color my hair, and it's not a secret. I've colored my hair, not anything really way out there but crazy, and I know my mom did not like it, but I really like color. So like you did yours red. I did.
And blonde.
I think it was red when I was younger.
No, purple.
Yeah. You did blue? Purple? Wow.
Like a purpley, but it couldn't be, because remember, I was in court, so I couldn't have this but it was
really
wild. Yeah, it was undertone.
Yeah. So I had done that, and I know she didn't like it, and it was hard because I want to respect her, but I still want to be who I want to be, and so you're torn trying to find your individuality, and at the same time.
Yeah.
And eventually she came to a point where, well, if you're going to do what you're doing, then either you're going to reap the consequences of what you're doing, or you're going to just learn from whatever you do. She came around, not that she likes it, everybody. I make sure I explain. My mother still does not like it, but she respects me as an adult. So we have another comment from Facebook.
Alexia was saying that the issue of boundaries is consistent across most cultures. If you ask Arabian, Persian, Indian families, they all had their expectations. You live for the family, not the individual. Wow. And then I also said that it also depends on the context. Like when you were saying, you asked, oh, where you going? Who you going with, that stuff? I think like it depends on the tone of voice and like the context in which the parent is asking. Like if you're asking out of concern, that's different from just being nosy and crossing boundaries that way. I think they're kind of two different things.
Okay, good. And I do agree with Alexia. And Alexis, you can respond to what she mentioned about being it's consistent across the board with other cultures as well. 100%, because I know I have a few friends who are of a different culture, and they talk about the very stern, especially in the religious aspect. And I think that's in all cultures as well. Again, the religious aspect dictates a lot of how parents are with their children, because they want to make sure that that tradition is passed down to their children and to their children's children. And if we're diluting it, then they're fearful that it's going to be forgotten. So I can understand, again, the fear that parents have. There are certain traditions that, again, like I said, I have, like whether it's for Christmas or whatever, they may not want to follow those traditions, and I will be very saddened. But at the same time, they're adults and they have to create their own path as well.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Actually, that last clause in Alexia's statement, I was like, ooh, they clutch my pearls.
Yeah.
that was pretty good. It really was. You're right. I guess it does depend on the context and the tone. I think there's a lot of ways to look at this, but from lived experience, there's only certain ways you can look at it.
Yeah.
And in keeping with tradition, and along the topic of religion, I'll talk about my grandma again. She used to believe you must wear pantyhose everywhere.
Wow.
With everything, and a slip.
And slip, yes.
And a slip. And I remember
you can't go outside without a slip on.
Listen, I actually have one.
And listen, I have a black, white, short, long. I have them all.
Short one. When they started to make the short one, it was like a revolution.
Yeah.
One, it was May, and I went to visit my grandma, and obviously I'm not wearing stockings, and she's like, "You're not put on stocking."
Yeah.
No, Miss Ayn, I'm not. And for her, it's I don't know, my poor grandma, she probably thinks or thought she's passed and I was this rogue child. But for me, this might be going off topic. I think a lot of the relationship with Christ, if we're bringing religion into this, is primarily your heart, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
So whether I wear pantyhose in January or July, I still love Jesus, and I do my best to honor him.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's just a relationship. I think at the end of the day, we have to have a relationship with our parents, and we have to have a relationship with our adult child, respectfully.
Right.
And respect doesn't mean submissive or that you have to give up your rights. You have to give up who you are to be respectful. So if you were to conclude this, thought or this topic from your perspective, how would you conclude your thoughts about the topic respect, parent, and the adult-child relationship?
I think respect goes both ways. I love to see people having great relationships with their parents as you get older, because we don't know how long we have with each other. But I do think parents need to understand their child is an adult and an individual. And when you push boundaries too much, you can actually cause more damage than you're thinking on so many different avenues.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm huge on respect. I have a lot of old school ways, but I'm also huge on boundaries.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, and I concur with what you're saying. Definitely establishing boundaries and having conversation. Communication is key. I think that's one of the most important thing when we're having this type of relationship, whether you're the parent or the adult child. I think communication is very important. Express yourself in a respectful way, share what it is that you're doing, and understand each other's position. And again, just have that mutual respect for one another.
Right.
Alexis, thank you so much for joining me today. I am pleased with our conversation, and I hope the parents and the adult child out there are, enlightened by this conversation. And I hope that you have a great communication with your parent or your adult child, and that everything at home or wherever you are may be peaceful and full with love, with rainbows.
And tea.
So, yeah.
Listen, there's nothing you can't talk over with a cup of tea and some crackers.
I'm telling you. Yes, definitely. Tea and crackers, or as Dylan would say, tea and toast.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you, everyone, for watching our program this evening. Again, I hope to see you at the next Truth Be Told. Alexis, I definitely want you back, girl.
I'm here.
To you.
I'm here.
Yeah, this is great. And again, everyone, subscribe at YouTube for Michelle Lorraine and click the bell, and we will let you know when we're on live. Facebook again, Michelle Lorraine, and Instagram, Michelle Lorraine. Thank you all for watching. Have a great night and take care. God bless. See you next time.